Hello, and welcome to Arts and Entertainment.
With Chris and Randall.
I'm Chris,
I'm Randall.
and welcome to the show. As always, before we start, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. We always want to know what you're thinking, feeling, what suggestions you have to make it a better show, a different show, anything. And of course, if you want to reach out to us personally, what's the best way to get to us, Randall?
Well, check out our website, chrisandrandall.com. There's various ways to find us. Our Facebook page is fairly popular. Arts and Entertainment with Chris and Randall on Facebook. We're both on Facebook. Yeah, check us out.
All right, so this show was born about a little over a year ago out of COVID. COVID was happening, it was 2020, and the world had kind of put us indoors. I was starting to take a lot of Zoom classes and do Zoom performances, and Randall, you were there, and we hadn't seen each other. This was a show designed to get us through, for me at least, to get me through COVID. And we did an episode early last year about live entertainment and how much we missed live entertainment. And this is kind of the follow up. So if you're watching the show right now, it's probably either the end of June 2021 or the beginning of July 2021. Something like that, right, Randall?
Yeah, it's like it's COVID-free summer has started already,
The
I'm sure.
COVID-free summer. So, like here in California, all of the mask mandate restrictions end on the 15th of June. And I think nationally, all in the US at least, all the restrictions end on the 1st of July. Now, I always feel bad about this because obviously this is a show that we're very grateful for our international listeners. And I absolutely want to acknowledge that COVID has not gone away and is still, unfortunately, an epidemic raging out of control in much of the world. So this is definitely one of our most U.S. Specific episodes. But I'm really hoping that as the disease is more people are vaccinated and as the epidemic declines, that what we're talking about today about the end of Zoom and the beginning of live indoor in person, outdoor in person, eventually is also part of your experience wherever you're listening or watching in the world. And of course, please be safe. Uh, so, for the last year and a half, most of us have been entertaining ourselves either by watching stuff on our TV or our computers, either through cable streaming or Zoom. And yeah, I guess my question too is, Randall, how did that feel for you? Like just always watching things that way?
Well, I never used, just talking about Zoom, I never used Zoom before the pandemic. I mean, I never used video conferencing. I never had a need to. And then suddenly friends were having Zoom parties, and I was like, oh, how do you use Zoom? And I had to figure it
Yeah.
out. I-
I mean, me too. I think almost 99% of us. My girlfriend is a professor, and she had to learn how to teach on Zoom. And I took a couple writing classes on Zoom. Didn't know how to do that. And this show, you know, are we on Zoom by the way?
yeah, we're on Zoom.
Okay, we're on Zoom. I just thought I didn't know. I
Well, we
don't know.
record. You know what? We record the show using Zoom, but then I post on Facebook, YouTube, and
Right.
as
So
a
Zoom
normal
is
audio
part of the
podcast.
platform or the process.
It's what
So
I use to record, and I never ever thought about recording a show on Zoom. But what happened was, started using Zoom for Zoom parties and whatever, mostly Zoom parties, I think, and then I realized, hey, you could record a podcast on Zoom real easy. I think I had watched. On YouTube, I'd listened and watched a lot of other shows, where they just basically did a video conferencing type show, even before the pandemic. But it never occurred to me that I could do it. I don't know why, but
no,
you know what? It's really just from a technical perspective. It's really easy to do a Zoom show, like in comparison, because we tried podcasts in the past. I've recorded things in the past, and video conferencing is a great way to do it.
it's interesting. It's never been aired and hopefully it never will, but we did try about 5 years ago to do a podcast. And I would go over to Randall's place and have a lovely lunch and drink a couple of beers. And we'd sit down and we were just talking to two microphones facing each other for about an hour and a half. And it was a very different dynamic. I hope we do one day get to do an in-person episode where you and I are physically in the same space. Believe it or not, folks, thanks to Zoom and this background, it looks like Randall and I are hanging out in a white cube. But in reality, Randall, you're in your apartment in West Hollywood, and I'm in my apartment in Westwood, and we're 5 miles away from each other.
Yep. Well, we'll do some live shows again. Person to person.
Yeah,
but
and I really look forward to that because I think the dynamic will be different. So I will say, I'll talk a little bit, I think, first about what we liked about Zoom, because this is also like, in many ways, a lot of us are leaving Zoom a lot of us are going to stop going to Zoom shows, Zoom performances.
Do you think there'll ever be a Zoom party again after the pandemic?
No. I mean, I think Zoom will exist for education. People will still do education. Sure.
Business, recording stuff.
Yeah, well, business people are boring, So, sorry, business friends, sorry. And we'll continue to use Zoom because it's a cheap, easy, flexible format. But yeah, Zoom parties, like, unless you all have like mono, no. Unless you all end up with leprosy, no. Or something where you become zombies, no. I'm a storyteller, and for those of you who don't know what that is, it's kind of like stand-up, and you're just telling stories that are funny or not funny. And I am a producer of storytelling shows, so I had to go from doing live performances and producing live shows to performing on this kind of streaming Zoom or Zoom-like. I use Zoom-like because there's different platforms that aren't called Zoom, but it's a similar concept where you're streaming and you do what I'm doing right now, which is talking to a telephone and pretending there's a room full of people behind me. There's no one behind me now. There's no audience here. Very lonely. And that's different because, when you're a performer, you're used to having other people to play off of, to feel, to read. And I've never really enjoyed it. I've never enjoyed performing on Zoom. I've done a number of them. And as a producer of Zoom shows, there's also that thing about getting other people to watch. Now, Randall and I, a few months back, we collaborated on a Zoom storytelling show. You want to tell us the audience a little bit about that?
Okay, well, I'm in a social club called Mensa, and you can look it up if you want to see what kind of weird stuff I get into. And Mensa,
it's like a death cult for people with high IQs, I think.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's just a social club with one silly requirement to get in, and
be very, very smart.
Yeah, well, it's
not a door I can get in. So anyway, continue.
You know what, Chris? I bet you could get in.
I have a low IQ. I know. I've been tested. So anyway, continue
I don't believe that.
So tell us about the Mensa Hootenanny.
Well, anyway, every year, this social club, they like to have a big party. Usually they rent a convention center at a hotel, and people stay for a weekend. And people stay... It's usually President's Day weekend. It's a long weekend. People stay, in the hotel, and there's different events. There's lectures. They get speakers. There's games. There's there's some general low-level partying. I mean, most of the people in this club are like older retirees, so they don't get up to a lot of misbehavior. Okay, shall we say? Yeah, so they always on Saturday night, they always some form of entertainment. So they were going to do the whole thing on Zoom, okay? And so I decided to try to have a storytelling show over Zoom. I'm part of the entertainment committee, and Chris over here helped me put the show together. Chris has put together tons of storytelling shows on and off Zoom, mostly off, right, Chris? And then
yeah. Well, actually, this year I ended up producing.
How many did you produce online on Zoom?
About 8. Including one on my own very birthday. I actually gave myself, for my 55th birthday, I put on a Zoom show.
Yeah, I remember that. I attended. That was fun.
That was kind of fun. Yeah, that was maybe my favorite of this. I'm not going to knock Zoom entirely because you are right. Producing it was fun to have a show on my birthday because it gave me people in a room that that I could have on my birthday. I just did a show where I took my friends who are New York storytellers and my friends who are LA storytellers, and I put them on the same show, which I could not have done without at least flying the New York people to LA or the LA people to New York. But back to what you were saying about
Well,
putting
we put the show together. It was a storytelling show on Zoom. I think we had like about 60 people in the audience. I think at the time, and
which is one of the bigger shows. I had been on one show with 80 people, but I think that was the second largest storytelling show I've done on Zoom,
yeah.
which
So
is
I mean,
sizable.
yeah. So I mean, well, all weekend I helped run the technical side, and put keep the entertainment going, keep the speakers going for all weekend, including the storytelling show. And so I got a lot of experience running a massive Zoom event, for 3 days it was. Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting experience. I mean, I never thought I would be running a show from my computer. Okay.
Well, it definitely made us feel like TV producers. I mean, that's the thing, right? Because on Zoom, you're like, really, you're looking at like, who do we focus now on? And
It was a little
how
bit
is the
like that,
signal
yeah.
transmission? And there's a little green room. It's not really a green room, but it's to let the person who's going up know that this is the room they're going to be in until it's their call to come on. And,
Yeah, yeah.
it is interesting to see how, and in that sense, maybe Zoom shows will always be around because we've gone from being stage managers to being TV producers.
Well,
You're on in three.
when it comes to something like a lecture, or if you did like lectures or lecture series, educational type stuff, I mean, yeah, I mean, Zoom is great for that. I mean, I think that
Yeah, and I took some classes in real time. Not there's what they call synchronous and asynchronous learning. And asynchronous, I know this because my girlfriend's a professor, is when they have tapes like master class, and you just learn by watching the tapes at your own convenience. And synchronous, where you're there and the instructor is there and they're teaching and talking to you at the same time.
well, I think where it falls down, Zoom for live, anything live, is when you want that audience response, right? You want to hear laughter, you want to hear applause. I mean, it just doesn't seem to work for that. We actually
Well,
tried
like
it.
if you have it unmuted, like my girlfriend, she does stand-up comedy. She still is doing a lot of Zoom open mics, and I'll be there when she's doing it sometimes. And they have to unmute, and it's a little weird because all of a sudden, if someone laughs, sometimes they become the focus because the Zoom camera, or you don't know where people are. I've never seen so many bookcases in my life. I get
Well, I'll
it,
tell you.
folks. You all read books. You all have at least one plant. I should get a plant.
Well, I'll tell you the problem with trying to get the capture the in Zoom, trying to capture like audience laughter or applause is you have to leave everyone unmuted, and what'll happen is someone will turn on a blender, someone will take a
Yeah.
phone call, someone will
I
start
think
talking to their friend.
on my birthday show, someone was literally just talking on the phone, and like Kelly had to figure out how to mute that person. So in the middle of a storyteller's performance, my friend Emerson Dameron, I had to do something you would never do in a live show. I had to tell them, Emerson, stop. Let's address this issue. Mute it. Emerson, go back and then start over again. And that was tough. He did a great job. He's a great storyteller. He's a pro. He's done a lot of shows, but it kind of broke my heart at the same time. So this is a lot of the craziest shit. Now, my girlfriend should love me now because I'm referencing her like, Matt, I went to my first live event, and that was a stand-up show. Watched my girlfriend, among other people, perform. And at the time of this taping, right, Randall, you have not been to a live
I've been to a
entertainment
live
event?
show. I've been a good boy, Chris, and I've been on lockdown the whole time.
Right.
Unlike you, Mister
So I
Break
had
the Rules.
no. My girlfriend had been vaccinated for a month, fully vaccinated for a month. I had been fully vaccinated for a month. It was outdoors. It was outdoor seating. It was you walk in, they take your temperature. They only seat people who are in the same, live together. I always love that line. It's a bullshit line, but whatever. And then you're seated and they're socially distanced. And I asked her what it felt like for her. And she said it was just very refreshing. Her first words, literally out of when she got to the mic, was "Take off your mask." And she was just so happy to have her mask off. I don't think technically we're supposed to take off our mask, but I think everybody had by that point had pulled their mask at least to let their nose out. But I didn't feel nervous. I did not feel nervous at all. She enjoyed seeing faces. There, even through masks, there's something about people laughing. It's a little bit better when it's not with a mask, but you really do get to see the universality of human experience. You know, uh, she just gave the kind of performance that even she would admit you could only give if you're live. You can't, like none of us have grew up as performers on television. So even if we're very good on camera, we're not as alive on camera as we are on in person. And it was actually kind of an interesting show because she was supposed to open the show, but Bill Burr, do you know the comic Bill Burr?
Yes, I do.
He was on, and Bill Burr is actually somebody I didn't know much about until COVID, because I had watched him on Saturday Night Live, and I had just seen him in King of Staten Island and The Mandalorian. And he's a fine actor and he's a fine comic, but I remember when he was on Saturday Night Live at the beginning of the year, or in the autumn of 2020, and he looked a little stiff and a little awkward. Some of his jokes fell flat. And I said to Kelly at the time, I said, I think that his monologue, because when they get a stand up to do a monologue on SNL, those guys are going to all the clubs and they're working it out. So by the time they get to SNL, they're like Chris Rock. It's just a tight, 5 minutes of joke, 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 because they've built it. But you knew that at that period, which would have been like October, there was nowhere to go. You'd invite some friends over to stand 8 feet away from you in your garage and hope that they laughed at you. So here he was. And by this point, I had seen some of his concert work, and I could see that he's a really good live performer. And Kelly had seen him before live in Atlanta, but you could still see he was a little out of practice. You know what I'm saying? He was funny. He wasn't like landing a joke every 20 seconds. He was landing a joke maybe every minute. And his best stuff was really the acting stuff. But it does make you realize that even our best performers, everyone's out of practice. Like it's gonna take a while for live performers to get back up to speed.
Yeah, you have a point, but I will say I've seen Bill Burr live like years ago. I've recorded him even,
cool.
and
you did? Wow.
Yeah, at the IO West when he performed there. And I'll say about Bill Burr is he's not like one of these laugh a minute comics. He tends to go.
Really?
He tends to have some spaces. Yeah. He's not one of these comics that needs a laugh every second.
Because I'm guessing I saw him perform for about 50 people. You probably saw him perform for about 50 people in a smaller venue.
Sure. Yeah. It might have actually been more than that, but yeah.
Is he like an energetic, charismatic performer where he really knows how to feel the room?
The funny thing about Burr, his stand-up, like if you ever see him like do just a club where like he's not being recorded, like I was recording him, but not really. It was just for YouTube or something. But if you ever see him just playing for the club, he can be antagonistic toward the audience. Like if he says something and he doesn't like the audience's response, he'll chew him out a little bit.
Okay, well maybe I got it really wrong, because he was deliberately not being filmed, because I was sitting right next to the videographer who told me he was told not to film Bill Burr.
Okay.
He wasn't antagonistic to the audience. He had this weird diatribe about what's wrong with women, which was pretty alienating to the women in the audience.
He's typical for that, yeah.
Yeah, and he did some good acting bits, which I liked. And then again, I've never seen Bill Burr before, so I don't know. But to me, he did not feel like he was. I don't know. Maybe that is his style, though. So maybe it's a false read. I also saw Daryl Hammond do 2 live shows. So I'd gone to actually not 1 but 2 of stand-up shows. Come to think of it, that was the second one. And the first time I saw Daryl Hammond, he was completely like really stretching. Like, how much time do I have? 20 minutes. Like, he seemed really lost and out of practice. And when I saw him again about 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, he was much tighter because he had done more shows. So all I'm really trying to say in the most long-winded manner is I do think all of our favorite performers who are coming back, I think everyone, even if they've been on Zoom, it's going to take us all a little while to get back up to speed.
I think you're totally right there. I'm sure they're all kind of rusty, but I'm sure they all all the ones that want to get in front of the audiences, they want to, they're itching to get out there, I'm sure.
I mean, I haven't been live yet in person, And I guess because I have done such limited amount of performing and I've done no writing, I have to admit I'm not feeling it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not people have asked me, are you gonna put on another live show? And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. But am I feeling it right now? Like I want to try to find a venue. Or if someone was to ask me to be on a show, of course I'd be on it. But am I gonna ask someone to book me? No, because I feel like after a year and a half of not being a live performer, I'm surprised how hesitant I am to get back into it.
Why do you think you're hesitant?
I don't know. I think sometimes if you walk away from something for too long, uh, you almost just want to stay away. I don't know. I don't wonder if I'm the only person who's feeling that or not. It is
Well, is
interesting.
it that you feel anxious about it? You feel like you just, I don't know, the urge is gone, the itch is gone for you,
I
or
think the itch has been forgotten. I'm sure once I get back on stage, I'll be rusty. It'll all come back to me and will feel really good.
do you think you've replaced the feeling of live performance with something else in your life?
I think so. Doing this podcast, working on essays, things that don't involve me around other people. Yeah, I think that's true.
There might be other performers who used to do a lot of live stuff. Maybe they have found other pursuits
Yeah.
now. We'll
I mean,
see.
look, man, I can't wait to see a concert. I can't wait to go to a theater. I went and saw Top Gun in the movie theater, and oh my God,
Where'd you see it at?
at the AMC 16 in Burbank in the Dolby surround room.
That's a
It
great
was
theater.
director's
Well,
chairs, recliners.
how many
Man,
people?
I got it. It wasn't a lot of people, only because it was a matinee showing on a weekday. But man, I felt so good. It just it felt so good to be in a movie theater again. I did see one drive-in movie. I saw Tenant, and our car battery died, and we had a weak radio signal, and I just did not enjoy watching anything. I'm never going to go to a drive-in again. It's not fun for me. It was a means to an end, but I can't wait for there to be a steady stream of A-list films to sit in the theater again and just observe. Just like I can't wait to get to the Hollywood Bowl and just see classical music. I can't wait to catch a Broadway play. I can't wait to go into a museum and look at artwork. But the thing that I've noticed is, they just announced that the Hollywood Bowl would be 100% capacity. Now that we're living in a fully vaccinated or close to a fully vaccinated society, I do feel comfortable around people again. Do you?
Well, the CDC came out with some data that showed that less than 1% of transmissions happened outside. So, I mean, that's with no vaccination.
Yeah.
So that's with no masks either. So, I mean, outdoors has always been very safe. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I mean,
Are you looking forward to going indoors to like,
well, I'm vaccinated now.
yeah,
So I feel, I don't know. I was never that scared. I'll tell you the truth. I was never that scared of COVID to begin with. I mean, I was a
yeah.
good boy just because. I'll tell
Well,
you
you
what.
were outside a lot too because you work
I
outside.
work. I work as a lifeguard at a swimming pool, and yeah. Listen, people there were freaking out at the beginning. The staff, especially. I was never freaking out that much. I just looked at
The
the
posh
numbers.
country club
I work at a
in
country
Beverly
club at
Hills.
the swimming pool, and the staff was a lot of the staff had anxiety about it. I mean, some of the staff even got it. I don't think from the club. I think from outside of the club. Some of the staff even lost family members, which is sad, But I was never that afraid of it. I mean, I'm healthy. I saw the numbers. I mean, my chances of even getting it. Most people's chances of even getting it are fairly low. And even if I got it, my chances of suffering ill effects were fairly low. I mean, I'll tell you what I was afraid of, Chris, is spreading
What?
it. I didn't want to contribute to
No,
the spread of it. So
and that's a fair thing.
I wanted to be a good boy, and and quarantine, and I did. I stayed on lockdown. This is one of the reasons I thought about doing this show. Because it's something I could do from home. So, you know, so I mean, what was your original question? I think I've lost your
Oh no,
thread.
I mean, I think well, I now asked, and again, folks, I had a friend who was a musician who got COVID. I would argue, I don't know. He performed during COVID outdoors. He practiced safety, but My heart goes out to anyone who's gotten COVID, and my heart goes out to anyone who's lost anyone to COVID or has had to deal with any of the setbacks to COVID. I worked at a theater that is still closed because of COVID. I was a bartender, and that theater still remains closed. So I know what it's like to be out of work because of COVID. I'm not trying to make light of what has happened. I'm just trying to say that we're now in the phase where all of us are trying to get back to some semblance of pre-COVID life, and going to the pool in the summertime seems like the most normal thing on earth. So are people, you just worked Memorial Day when we recorded this, were people out at the pool Memorial Day?
Oh yeah, it was well attended. We still have COVID protocols in place, such as limited capacity at the pool. I'm hoping that they will get rid of those capacity limits, go back to normal soon, but we'll see what happens.
Well,
But
I mean, I guess as after June 15th, everything is basically, that's the goal, is with very limited things. They're getting rid of social distancing, they're getting rid of limitations on capacity. The only other thing I want to say about COVID, and let's just get it all out there, is I didn't like anything about COVID that came out in film or TV during the pandemic addressing the topic. They better wait at least 20 years before someone even tries to write a play, a movie, or tell a story about COVID. This is not a period of history any more than 9/11 was a period of history that I have any interest in revisiting.
it's interesting that you bring that up, Chris, because let me say something. Because like some years before this whole thing happened, I got interested in trying to study the flu pandemic, the Spanish flu pandemic,
Yeah.
and everything you just said. I have been able to find precious little cultural artifacts about the flu pandemic. I mean, we have photographs, we have some extremely brief and limited historical accounts. Um, the flu pandemic didn't. I mean, as far as I could tell from the research I did years ago, it didn't seem to be very influential culturally. It didn't seem to have very many lasting effects. I mean, I think possibly, my grandfather always carried a handkerchief. And in
So did mine.
some of the research I found, that was because of the flu pandemic. Because during the flu pandemic, they were telling people, if you cough or spit, you need to do it into a handkerchief so you don't spread the flu. And so they drove it into people's heads. You got to carry a handkerchief. And
Well, I'm sure I'll carry a little mask in my house or my pocket for at least months to come. I mean, you raise a good point too. I was thinking about my own grandparents. My maternal grandparents lived in America during the Depression. They also lived in America during the pandemic of the Spanish flu. And they, in the middle of all of this, they would go to the movies and they'd go to vaudeville to escape, to catch live shows, to escape the troubles of their day. And then I think about my father's mother and father, my paternal grandparents, and they were living in England during the Blitz in World War II, and they go to the movies, even though that very building might get blown up and they could die. And there is something about how, in the midst of tragedy, people will always want to see either live in-person entertainment or listen to music or go and watch a film. I mean, there's something about it that we just can't resist. It's undeniable. It's indestructible. If you had asked me a year ago, would movie theaters ever come back, or theaters in general would ever come back, or could you ever have 14,000 people sitting together again and just laughing and crying and being a community? I'm going to go baseball game pretty soon. I can't believe that. We're going to sit there and sweat it out together and high five a stranger. And it feels good. It feels really good to know that this part of it will continue. And at the same time, shows like what we're doing now also continue. Randall, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I guess I'll just say that I think the end of this is coming real soon for the United States at least, and other countries it'll come. I mean, as soon as U.S. citizens are vaccinated, I mean, I hope that our government sends those vaccines out to the world.
Absolutely.
And this is going to be over sooner than people think, real fast, I think.
Absolutely. And again, we don't know what year or what time you're watching this. This show is always a snapshot of the time it was created. But of course, be cautious, be safe, be well, and always find something transcendent in art and entertainment. So, once again, I'm Chris.
I'm Randall.
Thanks for listening or watching. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.